business. Found some of the details. I can only write so fast, so try and concentrate. Yeah, okay.
And I do rattle on.
No, that's fine. No, cool. No,
Right,
I think passionate people do tend to have something to say. Yeah, so I think it's good.
So I went to the meeting, and while I was at the meeting, I met Sargon Avakid and a couple of other sort of YouTube personalities.
Yeah.
And then I met a guy who's about third in command of the Reform Party.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, called John.
Yeah.
Who told me the tale of a project involving engineering companies,
yeah.
universities and teaching professionals like ourselves.
Yeah.
Who have just had their bid turned down, and it was a big bid, on the basis of their EDI statement and their prevent statement.
Yeah, that's very sad, yeah.
Right, because they wouldn't play ball.
Yeah.
Right, so I've said that I'm going to talk to John, which I'm going to do in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And with a view to me saying, okay, we're going to have a second crack of the whip, and I'm going to do your EDI statement and your prevent statement.
Yeah.
Now, if I do the EDI and the prevent statement, it will be as close to following what is lawfully required as it can be.
Yeah.
Right. In which case, if they turn it down again, they've got a legal case on their hands.
Oh, well done. Yeah.
Right. But this is the first of what I think will be many. Where if you're doing science or engineering or anything in STEM for that matter, Tom.
Yeah.
If you aren't playing ball, they aren't going to give you the money. That's exactly what I predicted would happen 2 years ago with UKRI.
It's institutionalized sort of prejudice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, it's ideological malpractice.
Yeah, that's very, very sick. Very, very sick. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that, because my my proposition on that basis actually runs straight head on into that, because my proposition is basically rooted out which is the absolute antithesis. It's like, I think there is an appetite to do that, but I think there are very few solutions, because if you take out woke, you have to replace it with something else. The devil makes work for idle hands. So yeah, wow. Well, thank you for letting me know that. And Lawrence Fox is the head of that thing, isn't he? I think, isn't he? Reform Party.
Well, yeah, Lawrence is certainly involved, and so I've now spoken to a couple of other people I've got who are in the engineering sector who are looking to do some work on getting something together in Yorkshire and Manchester.
Yeah.
And they obviously find it problematic. And what we've got is across the board is a quite a different political spectrum coming together to try to understand this, and that we've got people who are more akin to a right-wing philosophy of life and people who are more akin to a left-wing philosophy of life, which they will use as a weapon.
Yeah.
If we posit this as a political problem.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's cultural, because culture's upstream of politics.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing, actually, these labels, by the way, from a psychology perspective, you talked about left and right. They're very convenient, because that's another way of actually marginalizing people. Say, oh, he's left or he's right.
That's right. Yeah.
And they actually look at me. I mean, if you look at me, I don't know what you think if I'm left or right, but actually, weirdly, I mean, the tragedy, I think, is this: if anybody does anything about this, they're labeled as being an extremist, which is a very bad, very, very bad term. But also, people are doing things maybe left or maybe right, but actually, there's a whole raft of people in the middle doing absolutely bugger all.
Yeah, well, that's usual. You get 10% on one side, 10% on the other, and 80% doing fuck all, because they're the sheep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, and there's quite a lot of research actually on that basis. I remember looking at it a while ago that 75% of people in organizations will knowingly do something wrong.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, that's, it's the Milgram experiment.
Is it?
Do you know the Milgram experiment?
No.
When I tell you, you will. Yeah. They put guys in white coats with clipboards and got them to electrocute people.
Okay, yeah.
Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Right, so they put guys in white coats with clipboards.
Yeah.
And then they took them into a room and they said that they were going to electrocute people. They were testing various things.
Yeah.
And these people, it wasn't happening. The people that were being electrocuted were actors.
Yeah.
Right, but they didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right. And they would have killed them.
Wow. Yeah.
Because the guy in the white coat and the clipboard told them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think is it I forget who it is. Is it Jung, or it's one of them that says that there are only two types of people: wolves and sheep?
Yeah.
I forget who it is, but it's this concept of the 80% being the problem, right? Because you've got to sway them.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the 10%, when I teach my route to advocacy model, you don't worry about the 10%. They're a fucking waste of time because they're so indoctrinated you can't get to them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that said, though, it's important to, in this situation, I think it's important to understand who are those people who want to do something about this, who've got the balls to do something about it, but don't know how to do it. Because I think,
well, that's the winning mindset. That's what we're teaching.
Yeah, but I think there are, and that's the concern I've got. That, and also when we were talking before, there's a very faint dividing line if you're not careful between what we're saying and what a wokie's saying, and actually it looks like the same. I mean, there's some bloody idiot from Essex Police on LinkedIn the other day who I engage with these people just to see where their mindset's at. But his starting point was to up front say this is not woke, but this is what Essex Police are saying, and it's quite clear that this bloke, I mean, he's black. I have nothing against black people whatsoever. He's a black chap, probably very capable, but he made the point about distancing himself from woke, but it was very obvious, and there was a hand up saying, stop the hate. So the very generalization that there is hate in the first place is just bloody inflammatory. The whole thing is frigging woke. And the thing that concerns me, which is the reason why I wrote my bloody book, the Evil in Silence, is that people just do not see this, and good people just do not see this. But I think as well, one of the things I wanted to get out of this conversation was, I think you just touched on it earlier, is to think about what's the quorum. You and I are doing whatever we're doing. Let's figure out what's different about what we're doing and how we might collaborate in that space. I mean, for example, I'm an engineer, so I understand the whole engineers are a bit weird in their own right. But so I think the other thing is that there's another quorum here, because we need to support each other, both from a strategic perspective. So you've just shared something with me around ED, the strategy, which is something I don't, to be honest, know much about. Well, I do know quite a bit about it, but it's not something that's particularly my forte. So there's something about us working together to align our strategies and also to support each other and also to bloody learn, because there's a distinct danger, no matter how good you think you are, Barry, I might think how good I am, actually we start to believe our own shit. And it's about, the challenge with this is what happens when the rubber hits the road, which is what you just described about being rejected for not meeting the EDI criteria. Crap.
Okay. Right. That's great. I did I had my warrior teacher seminar last night with my global parents.
Okay.
Right. They're on fire. They're absolutely on fire. Right.
Fantastic.
And so we're now in month 5, so they've had 10 hours with me, near as damn it, and done the homework in between, right?
Yeah.
And the conversations that we are having now, in comparison to the conversations we were having in module 1, is mind blowing. It's up here, right? It's up here, and they're talking about what they're going to use that they've been taught in order to be able to convince people. We had another detransitioner this week, somebody who changed their mind. We've had somebody who thought they were non-binary has gone, it's fucking nonsense. Right. So this is a multi-headed hydra, Tom. Yeah. And there'll be very many ways in which we can look at it. But I thought you might find it interesting today, seeing as we're now on the old computers, and I didn't expect to be. Do you want to have a quick look at a couple of the slides I showed them yesterday?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, by all means.
Just to give you an idea. Now, how do I share if you're in charge?
I think I need to. Yeah, hold on a minute. I need to bloody. Hold on, I don't.
Oh, hang on a minute. Share screen.
Does it allow you to share?
You've disabled me sharing.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Let me just change that. How do I bloody change that? A minute. Make co-host. That should work.
That should work, shouldn't it?
You are now the co-host, so that should work.
That's right. Right. So yesterday, I don't know whether you better see this. I'll see if I can get it so you can see it. Yesterday, we started talking about communication. Okay. And we were, which one do I want to share? Hang on. It's not Happy Bunny. Oh, I think it's that one. Right. What can you see?
I can see, I can see a blank screen. Well, I can see a big white triangle with nothing in it at the moment. A knowledge of history hoarding. Yeah.
Right. Okay, grand. Right. So we're actually in business, right? So yesterday we were talking about communication, and we started right back with the original cave paintings and came right forward to the ABBA concert down in London. Do you know about this?
No. No.
Oh, it's absolutely phenomenal. I'll send you a link to it. It's phenomenal. It's my friend went the week before last, and he rang me up in the middle of the night and said it blew his brains out. He's never seen anything like it. And there they are singing, you know, I believe in angels, and the winner takes it all. And they're not there. It's pure holographic imagery. The entire stadium is a holographic projector. It's the stuff from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right. So we were looking at communication in the future last night, talking to them about that, and then we came to talk about the history. So this is what I took them through when it came to the history and what I thought was happening. And we talk a lot about what is our narrative, and that's what you're talking about. Is what is our individual narrative? Because no narrative will be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if our narrative is the same, then they can accuse us of being ideological.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right. So have a look and see what you think. So I talked about how knowledge has traditionally been managed.
Yeah.
Okay, and how we've gone from the elders having the sacred texts to religious leaders, the elite caste, the institutions, the select few. We then had mass availability via the internet.
Yeah.
And with social media and phones, we've now got mass accessibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the priestly class, the acolytes, the adherents, and the common folk. This isn't just Western. Wherever you go, the hoarding of knowledge was what was done to keep power. Because at that time, the byword was scientia potentia est, which is, of course, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Because knowledge is science, scientia, right? Then I said, as much changed? Well, the truth of the matter is, not much hasn't changed at all. Except the difference in now is the wisdom is power.
Yeah.
But they're still eking it out a bit at a time. If you're an employee in an organization, Tom, you know, you won't get management skills until you hit management.
Yeah.
Well, that's nonsense in mod. They could look it up. What are we doing that for? We're still hoarding, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now we have, you imagine the history of the translation of the Bible and how that was seen as heresy.
Yeah.
And the common man wasn't supposed to have the word, you know?
Yeah.
And then you went from there to the Gutenberg press, which meant that we could proliferate, but it was unwieldy, but it was a revolution. And again, then now we have accessible, democratic, and meritocratic knowledge distribution. But what fills in the question mark? That's the question I asked them.
Right. Okay.
What is it that allows us to have accessible, democratic, and meritocratic knowledge production?
Yeah.
And the answer is podcasts.
Yeah.
Right? That's a Gutenberg revolution.
Yeah.
Because if you're 30 minutes on the bus to work and 30 minutes on the bus home, that's an hours of learning you normally wouldn't have.
And it's a shitload of reading as well, isn't it? It's bloody books worth of reading.
Yeah, right. So if I'm right about that, the new motto is curiosity is power.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So what we see is that this model is no longer relevant. And that in fact, what we're looking for is this. I'll give you a sec to read that.
Building new communities. Yeah.
Right. And how does that look? Well, to me, it's a new reformation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we're looking at community warrior teachers.
Okay.
Right. Somebody who teaches and people who learn should be as ubiquitous as those that go to the gym.
Yeah.
Motivated and curious individuals.
Yeah.
Regularized and disciplined self-learning.
Yeah.
Widely read, like a polymath light.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know, you know a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
Specialized areas, and here's where your bit comes in that you just mentioned to me before I showed you this. Specialized areas, usually to a collaborative goal.
Yeah.
Right. We're conscious of our limitations. That kind of individual is conscious of it. You know, are we the bad guys? You just said this yourself. We're thinking about the same thing. Are we the bad guys? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
We're looking at competence, not confidence.
Yeah.
We spend too much time on confidence. We're rigorous, but we're not inflexible.
Yeah.
And if we don't, we know someone who can.
Yeah.
Right.
So my initial comments on that, I think psychologically, the way things are with increasing polarization, there isn't the dialogue to get to the realization. So, for example, I just engaged with an organization over the last 6 to 12 months with a very narcissistic CEO, okay, which isn't particularly unusual. But in this climate, if you've got someone like that at the top, there's there's good words when things start, but as things progress, the actual appetite to accept or acknowledge that there's any sort of personal development requirement diminishes. And I think one of the healthier questions I always ask to test the health of someone's mind, and I think sadly there's more arrogance by decentralizing some of this information on the web and stuff. There aren't the checks and balances between people to say, is that right or is that wrong? And that can give rise to people like us listening to too much of Jordan Peterson and too little of, the actual bloody idiots that we don't want to listen to. And actually, I do encourage people, conversely, to drink my own medicine, which is to listen to, because the reality, a lot of this, I think, is listening to people that we don't want to naturally listen to, Barry, to shape our own ideas and sharpen our axes, which is frankly the way that I test my skills on LinkedIn. I'll jump in, or other debates, I will intentionally jump into the fire because I'm a fire breathing monster. And I'll test my own skills to see if I can see the patterns and see if I can try and avoid World War III. What does good look like? It means dialogue. It means productive dialogue, Barry. And if I can get through this wall of, zero discussion to the human being, right, behind that, then I feel as though that's a win. So that's my steer on that. I think it's just the healthiness of people's minds. And also, you talked before about there's a wonderful adaptability to human beings, but you were talking about those parents and the fact they'd moved on a mile, but actually, unless you'd intervened, nothing would have happened, because we are beautifully adaptable. There are some people on this earth who live on $1 a day, Barry, and there are some people like us who might think we're having a hard time, but actually we're not. But we can adapt, rightly or wrongly, to the biggest crock of shit, to utopia and back. So I think for me, it's about what's the trigger that will actually get people in. And I totally get what you're saying. What's the trigger that will actually get people on this journey, to realize and have that awareness that they might actually benefit from, joining a community or a learning community to address some of these issues.
Right. Okay. I think you ask a very good question. And I think that the answer to that is a coherent narrative that makes them realize they don't know what they think they know.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Now, you stick me in a room. I don't care whether you're a CEO or you're the cleaner.
Yeah.
You stick me in a room for long enough with that person, and they will leave feeling lesser than they were when they arrived.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that, yeah.
Right? Now, this is what we do, right? Because in our endeavor, we attempt to be the smartest person in the room. And we've got the arrogance to think we are.
Yeah.
That's helpful. You just said about CEOs being narcissistic. Well, there's a certain amount of egotism needed here. You need to have that confidence.
Yeah.
But that can't be a narrative that's just one level. They've got to be able to question it. You've got to be able to go down multiple levels to respond.
I agree totally. I think you're absolutely right. I think the other thing as well with this, I was thinking about this morning, is that we are obviously, if we were employees, Barry, right, in these organizations, we'd be fired on day one.
You're right.
So that's the reason why we are not employees of organizations. The flip side of that is people tend to engage with people like themselves, particularly chief executives. And so we are almost the antithesis of what a CEO who is, most CEOs do nothing.
So I absolutely agree with you, but I think that we have to think of the nature of what's happening here. Now, you and I would go into an organization traditionally if we were doing organizational development, and we would go to the CEO and we go, right, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And they say, well, we want to do this, and I go, right. So my next thing would be, right, okay, well, I can help you do that, but I'm not your mate. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm the friend of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And if that upsets you at times, you're going to have to learn to put up with that, because that's why I'm here.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. The difference here is that what we're seeing is a grassroots movement. So the methodology of going in at the top of the CEO and saying, here's what we're going to change, is actually going in the same direction as the very stuff that's being imposed.
Yeah.
So that's where we've got to be careful. So you've got to make the CEO into a grassroots activist.
Yeah.
That's the first job, right? So that's the second job. The first job is we've got to find CEOs who are willing to listen to that story.
Yeah. And I think there's people, again, I listen to what people tell me. I don't know what people tell you about you, but I quite often get accused of a lot of different things, one of which is an anarchist, right? And a sort of, and actually I'm a very structured anarchist. So
I always describe myself as an anarchist who wants plush surroundings.
Yeah, I'm an anarchist that's got a real passion for people. But my motivation is very simple, Barry. That what motivates me in the most diabolical situations is simply to create an organisation that people start functioning properly, and also that very often the survival of that organisation as well. And so it isn't a nice to have; it's absolutely critical. So I've had the luxury in certain situations to see that through and show people that it works.
Right. I absolutely agree with you, but except for one fundamental thing, which I was thinking about over the weekend after our initial question, right?
Sure.
Is that you are no longer that.
Okay.
Right? You're not. If you're going to do the sort of thing that we want to do and get people to understand that actually this is a fundamental and real threat to our way of life, right?
Yeah.
Then thinking about it in an organizational level is a waste of time.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm not saying that means you don't go into organizations. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that what you've got to find are those who are in power in those organizations, who are willing to change the organization to get the message that we want to get across, and do it through vision, mission, strategy, and tactics.
Yeah.
Right. And in doing so, to free their employees from wokeness.
Yeah.
Right. And you can do that without having to mention the word woke at all.
Yeah.
Because what we're really doing is reiterating Enlightenment values and the values of the Reformation and some of the values of John Stuart Mill and the likes about free speech. And we're saying you are going to put those into your new mission, vision statements and your new, so they're in effect, they're going to say, there's a big change coming in just about me. It's about all of us. And here's the change.
Yeah.
I think the change starts with this.
Yeah. I think the challenge with that, Barry, I get that completely. I think the challenge with that is, right, because I do believe that unbelievably that people believe the woke stuff is actually the right thing to do. They will say to you, we're already doing it.
And then you've got them.
Go on.
Right. And then you've got them. Because that if they say we're already doing it, the conversation's on.
Yeah.
The conversation's on. Right. If that's what they say, oh, we're already doing it. The conversation is on. Oh, right. Okay, great. Well, can you just give me a breakdown of what you're already doing? Because that sounds really good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with that. I think.
Right. So the conversation's on. And eventually, you will get down to two things. Are they humanist? Are they behaviorist? And are they equality of opportunity? Or are they equality of outcome? That's it.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. Now, once you get down to that, and you can explain the difference between equity and equality of opportunity, and you can explain the difference between humanist and behaviorist, if they don't choose equality of opportunity and humanism, they're a fucking moron.
Yeah.
And you're wasting your time.
It is fucking ridiculous. But the difficulty with this is, I mean, one of the things is, I think there's two parallel universes we're talking about here. We've got the rational human being. So you go to school, Barry, and you were taught maths, and this is right and this is wrong, and it's all very logical, and there aren't too many different ways to answer a question, right or wrong, by and large, and it's really quite prescriptive, and it really doesn't bear any resemblance to what happens when you get out into the big bad world. You find all kinds of weird behaviors that you just can't cope with, particularly if you want to do something interesting. What I've noticed is there's a parallel world, which is assuming that things are rational, applying a rational solution to something that's fucking irrational. Yeah. And that's where I watch the dialogue. So when I'm listening to the dialogue, including some of your dialogue, there are things that are flagging up to me in terms of the dialogue, which are tools that I've picked up that I've noticed are problematic. And so, for example, specifically, at its simplest level, what you talked about left or right, okay? those are very convenient labels to disassociate yourself one way or the other. When in fact, the interesting thing is, I've noticed that the woke tools, which the fundamental crux of woke, which I think you're right about humanness versus humanity. I think there's another one which is problematic, which is this victim-centric culture, which is victim, scapegoat, and terror, and that largely manifests itself in blame, right?
Are you reading my presentation?
I don't know, but yeah, okay, I'm not. No, you carry on. If you're about to talk about this, then please you crack on, my friend.
I mean, you're saying the same things as I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Right, but in a different way. We are definitely on the right page, right?
Yeah.
But let's just for the fun of it, just to see this out, right?
No, carry on. I won't interrupt you. You crack on.
I put at the bottom there, they pay for the gym, so why not pay for that? It should become as normal as paying for the gym.
Okay, yeah.
To be learning, right? So that's next bit, right? Okay. Right. You got to remember this has been picked up. It's not in the political. They picked it up out of the political and they put it in the cultural.
Yeah,
so what we're seeing with the clash of Argos, it's coming because of everything that's happened in our society with technology, is that you've got science, art, math, sociology, humanities, history. They're all bashing into each other, right? All these different forms of language.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what's happening.
Yep.
Right. And that's what the red one is.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will envelop that which it can get in front of. That's what it does. It will get, it takes it over and it ruins it, right? Okay, that was the first thing I was doing with them. And then I did a SWOT on where we're at.
Okay.
So, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Of what? Of woke or what? Or
of the zeitgeist, of where we are as a society.
Oh, so this
is going on in the world.
Okay, so this is okay.
Yep, right. So all I would say is this, right?
Context of what's happening in the world. Okay, all right.
But in the context of my narrative of how I'm managing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right, because the point, this attack is a collectivist attack.
Yeah, I would say just on the. I think we've totally lost sight of the importance of language. I think the most striking thing, there's a couple of people in my book, I can't even remember the bloody quotes, but there are people, I mean, Socrates, Plato, when you go back to real basics, right? Socrates and Plato noticed, quite rightly so, that language was the fucking crux of everything. And they had a real unbelievable depth of knowledge of that. And we are arrogantly moving forwards. And I think,
you're reading my presentation again.
God, yeah. Okay.
Right. I think it's probably best if you shush till I tell you otherwise.
Yeah, no, sure, yeah, do that, Barry.
Right. So I'm looking at the SWOT. What have we got? What's the problem? Yeah. So we then looked at that, and they're on board with all of this. Yeah. Right. So let's move on again.
Yeah.
Then we talk about the intergenerational and cultural gaps.
Yeah.
Right. So again, what's going on with that? Various different things that are happening within that arena. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I go into all sorts of stuff. This doesn't matter to us today, right? None of this, but victimhood.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to get above that. Yeah.
I think the other thing I just sort of pointed on that, I think what's striking, one of the more striking things that Jordan Peterson talks about is what happens to monkeys when they become isolated from communities. So it's exactly the same in us.
They go mad.
Well, they go mad, but they get very badly attacked, and they normally get killed actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that in action because I used to be a zookeeper.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Brilliant.
I've seen a monkey troop murder a monkey.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Amazing.
And it is murder.
Yeah.
It's murder. It's premeditated.
Yeah, and I think there's something about that, isn't there? There's something about, and I think just being marginalised is probably one of the cruelest things you can possibly do to anybody.
Yeah, that's what we need to do to the woke.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then they'll come back, right? So we're still going to need the Golden Bridge.
Yeah.
It's like, when that little lad, did I tell you about the little lad who thought he was non-binary?
You mentioned it, but he didn't tell me in detail.
did I not tell you at the end of the weekend when he spent it with people of different ages, with a lawyer and a doctor and me and a few other people? He's only 18 from the Isle of Wight, bless him. I mean, you can clean the whole place with a vacuum in an hour, right? So, but he sat there and he said, "I've never sat around a table and had dinner with people before."
Oh,
18
man.
years old,
That's
right?
tragic, isn't it?
And he
Yeah.
said to me the night before, "I'm non-binary." And I said, "Oh, right, okay, And we then talked a bit more about it. But come the end of the weekend, when I dropped him off at the train station with his boyfriend, he tapped me on the shoulder when his boyfriend got out of the car, and he said, "I'm not non-binary." And I said, "Why aren't you non-binary?" He said, "Because it's fucking rubbish." And off he went.
Wow.
And off he went.
But
right?
what do you think? But what do you think? Do you think that was the socialization and the variety of challenges of his own thinking and finding himself? What was it that triggered that, Barry? Do you reckon?
Well, he's 18. That's the first thing to understand, right?
Yeah.
And mentally, they're children now.
Yeah.
They're not adults. Many of them are mentally children, and he's mentally a child, right? So when we start to think about how we teach andragogy, pedagogy, teaching adults or children, right?
Yeah.
You've got to forget the idea that adults and children are delineated by age, because many adults are now are intellectually children.
That's
right?
awful, isn't it? Yeah.
It's awful, right? So from his perspective, because he was 18 and because he was suddenly in the middle of Manchester and went to the gay scene, and he's walking up Canal Street, which is bright and shiny and full of people he can sleep with.
Yeah.
He'd never seen anything like it in his life. So he was open to ideas at that point, and it was just about the timing. And secondly, he'd never met an old gay man before.
Wow.
So when the old gay man went, "Listen, kid, enough of your bullshit."
Yeah.
Raised by his mum.
Amazing, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was that along with the fact that we shattered his map of meaning completely. But because he was 18, he could take it because he's still a child.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of that in my world. Okay. So, when it comes down to the language, I turn around there's lots of different types of these things, but I turn around a business, a retail business, right? And they were, and you find this is very common. It sounds logical, but it's not. And it's not that it's right or wrong, but this business was, what I do is I do an A&E session with 3 of my team members, all of which are trained in the winning thinking capability. And the overarching mantra, right, and language was around discounting, okay? And you find any retailers talk about fucking discounting, it's just ridiculous. And anyway, so I said, I realized this and I picked this language up, and it wasn't that it was right or wrong, because there's obviously a place for pricing in a business. But I realized this was overarching. And I pulled this out, and I didn't address it in front of the whole team, but I pulled it out and sat down with the managing director. And I said, just tell me, is discounting your worst fear in this business, right? And he basically went white as a sheet, and he said, our customers are hooked on discounts like they're hooked on crack cocaine, right? And so there was this manifestation of this language which was overwhelming this business, completely screwed it. And even and everybody was, so the finance director was chasing money to discount stuff, and actually I said, right, well, I'm gonna ban the word discount, okay? Because I was chair of this business, because I had the luxury of doing that. I said, look, we're not going to talk about discount. We'll talk about pricing. We'll talk about sales. We'll talk about gross margin, and we banned the word discount, right? And we changed the language, and that business got back to profit. The balance sheet was really screwed. It was about -2 million. The January I engaged, within 3 months, the balance sheet was fairly clean, and we didn't need any investment. So that, I think, is similar to what you've just talked about in terms of, and the worst people, the funny thing about organizations is the worst people I come across in terms of awareness of dialogue. You talked about dialogue on one of these slides before. They have no awareness of the dialogue whatsoever, like discount or whatever they bloody talk about, is the big 4. The big 4 are the worst. They really do believe their own shit. And they have no awareness of it. So when I run this with them, it takes more than one of them to figure it out, Barry.
Yeah.
It takes one of them to think, fucking hell, we say we're the best consultants in the world. What's the implications of that statement? Then another one think, shit, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And then but if you just take one of them they won't necessarily see it, even though you can take through the bloody process. It's like
that again, that's right. But but this is where I used to teach something a few years back called edu selling.
Okay.
Right. And edu selling was specifically done for longer term sales engagements.
Yeah.
So where you go to see them 3 or 4 times before you finally get the deal.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea was that you wouldn't sell them anything, but you'd teach them plenty.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then by the time it got to ask for the order, they'd feel so indebted to you.
Yes.
That they give it to you. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
And it worked. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what you're talking about is an idea, is a corporate organizational cultural entrenchment. So the ideas of the organization are so entrenched that they've built their own shibboleths and their own myths.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, these cannot be challenged.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They believe in their own bullshit, which is the words that you used.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if that's true, the way that I see things going, if that's true, and we're seeing everything thrown up in the air and language is now up for grabs, which it is, right? Then they don't need simple slogans. They need clear complexity.
Clear complexity. What does that mean? I don't understand.
It means that just because something is complex doesn't mean it's unclear.
Well, I think what I've noticed. Okay, I get that. A lot of people hide behind complexity that don't understand things.
Right. Okay. So 1 second before you continue.
Yeah, go on.
That's how woke works.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's definitely how it works.
Complicates the simplistic and simplifies the complicated.
No, totally.
Yeah, that's how woke works.
I think at its simplest form, when you get to the truth, like what I just described in that business, when they identify, that's what I call fixing the right problem.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly
when you get to the truth, the strategy becomes very straightforward, and there's a shitload of things to do, and it looks relatively complex, but actually it's not complex, because you've got to, in that business, the strategy was something like to increase the gross margin by X, and that was it.
Yeah.
And everybody was focused on that, and they can manage all the shit and complexity. I'm not interested in doing that.
No, I mean, it's you've got, right, okay. All organizations are now learning organizations.
Yeah.
That's not up for discussion. Right. Now, Boyzatis posited this in the 90s. I could see it coming. We're there, right? If they don't want to be a learning organization, they're done. They're finished.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to embed organizational learning, for example, in any given organization. And you mentioned earlier on about Socrates and Plato, right?
Yeah.
So look at what's on the screen now.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all the stuff that Socrates and Plato talked about.
Yeah.
Which is what I discussed with my learners last night.
Great.
So
yeah.
you and I are genuinely on the same page with this, right?
Yeah.
So it's extraordinary, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is, let's say you've got an MD or a CEO of a company that's turning over 28 million.
Yeah.
And that company has got a profit margin of 2%.
Yeah.
Right. And so many hundreds of employees or thousands of employees or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And the person that runs it is an artist.
Okay.
Right. So it's what's his mindset or what's her mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if they're an artist, I wouldn't approach it the same way as I would approach it for an engineer.
Okay. That's interesting.
Because what you're trying to do is to get them to understand that the argot of their profession, do you remember the yellow clouds with the little bouncing balls? The argot of their profession has been captured. Because you've got to take them before you can take the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So now you're an engineer.
Yeah.
And I may well have said to you, right, so put your engineer mind to this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. In the world that we live in right now, people talk a lot about things about postmodernism and post-structuralism, and your average MD who's an engineer will go, I don't know fuck all about any of that.
Yeah.
Right. And if they say I don't know fuck all about any of that, that's when curiosity becomes power.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Power for the teacher and power for the learner.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, let me try and break it down to you. Break it down for you. One element of this is what's known as, right? And so you've not heard of queer theory? No, I've never heard of it. Right. Okay. Well, get your engineer's head around this about how we run a world where a theory that's being used regularly says that there should be no such thing as barriers.
Yeah.
Now, that's a problem an engineer can get their head round.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now, if you're an artist, I would go to the artist and I would say, I saw that you're an artist. Any particular field that you? Oh yeah, I was a painter. Ah, right. So go on then. Favorite artist? Tell me your favorite artist. And they'll go, Gauguin or whatever it may be. And then they'll ask me, who's your favorite artist? And I always say the same thing, Holbein.
Okay.
And they usually go, really? Because people don't know who Holbein is, right?
I'd probably say George Best or
No, Holbein was Henry VIII's painter.
Okay, right.
He's the one that drew all those flat pictures of his wives, very face on, and when he went to see Anne of Cleves, because he normally did them like that.
Right, yeah.
Anne Boleyn and Catherine of Aragon and all that lot, like that.
Yeah.
Then he went to meet Anne of Cleves, and she had such a fucking big nose, he painted her face on. so it wouldn't frighten the shit out of Henry, right? And I would tell this story to that person.
Yeah.
And then I go, it's really interesting. I think what's happened since the Dadaists, when the guy with the urinal turned it upside down, and then we had, Damien with his, unmade bed and all that sort of stuff. I don't really understand all that, but I'm really intrigued by how art has been captured by postmodernism. Do you see that? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right, because if they're a CEO, they're not doing the art.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What do you mean by that? Well, the idea of queer. Hang on a minute. What's queer theory?
Yeah.
Right. So what becomes important is how do you get the individual in the room? So I did a pitch to an engineering company in Yorkshire the other night, right?
Yeah.
And I opened it up by saying good afternoon, hello guys, and nice to see you and all that sort of stuff. And then I said I was really intrigued to see your engineering, in particular your research and development. I do wonder whether you're taking part in the levelling up agenda. At which point the guy went, "What's the levelling up agenda?"
Yeah, amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And I went, oh, make a note and I'll come back to you on that one. Right. Yeah. And then I gave him a brief overview. Right. Okay. So then we get talking and he said to me, right. He said, so how would you get us to sell, just, our clients to buy better? I said, I'd do exactly what I did with you. And he said, what did you do with me? I said, I told you something you didn't know so that you felt like you owed me something. Yeah. And he went, fuck me, you did. He said, I bought you at that moment. And I was like, it's not, wisdom is power.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So first off, it's knowledge is power. You can hoard it. Then wisdom is power. We're now in a situation where curiosity is power.
Yes.
So my curiosity in understanding that is powerful, and his curiosity in wanting to understand that is powerful.
Yeah.
And the best thing about curiosity is power over the other two is the other two can be prescriptive, and the third one's collaborative.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. You show me a CEO that isn't going to go, right, that's interesting. Tell me more. Yeah. Game on.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what I do. Just so this, you might find this interesting. I don't really differentiate between what type of people they're. The question I always ask is, tell me about the last 5 years, the challenges and the actions you've taken, right? And what that does is you can then understand this happened. This is what we did about it. Then you can actually get to grips with the thinking in the business, which articulates some of those aspects. And then I'll say, well, okay, so you hit this and you did that. What's the implications of that? What, and then you can actually pull out some of the thinking and say, do you realize the significance of that statement? And how did that drive the business? So if I'm working for you, if I said this to you, what would you think? How would you operate? To raise that awareness. And then
right.
And then it becomes, there's two things you get to with that, right? One is the core business.
Yeah.
So in other words, what really matters and what's worthwhile in that business. And then you get to actually, how the hell did they get to where they've got to?
Right. I'm going to stop you. Right. Okay. Not because you're wrong. I'm going to stop you because you're playing in the different park.
Okay.
Right. And what I'm saying is that bit that I did at the top, right? When you give them a different framework of seeing how things work.
Yeah.
That question that you then ask that follows, which is so vital, because then you're moving from creation of relationships down to activity within the organization.
Right.
I want them to be absolutely unsure about everything they're going to tell you they've done.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because at that point, you're the daddy.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I like that.
Curiosity is power, right? So so you're operating outside the realm of the organization, outside the realm of the individual, in a strategic manner that is global.
Yeah.
You do that first. Who's the daddy now?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, you want to tip them tip them slightly. Yeah, I get that.
You want to dislodge them because otherwise they're not learning. If they don't feel uncomfortable, they're learning nothing.
Yeah, but
and everybody's in a learning organization.
But the other thing as well, you actually, in doing that, you're developing rapport as well. So you actually, in following that logic, you're developing rapport with the people as well, which is important.
Well, and you're also looking for collaborators, right? Because in developing that rapport, within 15 minutes, you'll know whether you're wasting your time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And if you're wasting your time, you might as well not bother. Because I've got myself involved in a project that's got woke people in it. And now knowing what I know 4 years later, I would never, despite the money, I'd have rather been broke.
Yes, I know. There are those. Yeah, I mean, let's see. Yeah, how do I reach that conclusion? I reach that conclusion on three fronts normally. I'm not sure I can remember all of these all the time, but one, and this is probably a category which is beautifully simple but captures what you just said. One is, do they want to do anything different? Right. Two, what's the outcome that they're looking to achieve? Right, and that checks their values. That checks if they're a bunch of fucking nutters.
Well, it does, but it only does it in terms of the organization and what they want to achieve in the organization. So you'll go straight into organizational development mode there. But what you're trying to achieve in terms of a change, in terms of your belief and your values yourself, is a change on a global scale.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't want to be involved with people that are going to waste your time, that aren't going to help you with your right. So let's say you go to a company with 3,000 people and the boss and the board, they don't want to understand or get behind this philosophical idea of how things should be. You might as well know that in the first 10 minutes and not waste your time.
Yeah.
Right. Because if they do, right, let's say they don't and you still go ahead, you've then got 6-12 months work with an organization with 20,000 people where you can start doing some change within the organization. Or you can move on to the next one and find somebody who does believe what you're saying, who takes it on board, not because they want to do it, but because they recognize they need to, and then you will influence 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And not only that, you will empty out of the organization any woke twat that doesn't like it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think, the woke twats will exit. I'm very good at exiting the woke twats. I'm very good at identifying them.
Yeah. Well, that's key at that point. But again, now we're down in the trenches.
By the way, the way I identify woke twats is that they cannot change, basically, because what the Winning Thinking program does is it provides a different perspective, and from that perspective, you take new action. And woke twats do not do anything different. That's why it's so dangerous.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and not only, well, I mean, you do it that way. I don't do it that way. The way that I do it is I know what they're going to say before they say
it. Yeah, probably.
Because it's mantra.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, it's
mantra.
No, I mean, I think you're right, but I think I can break some people. In some ways.
No, I'm not negating the fact that some people will change, but I always say to people, you're spouting a mantra now. I know what you're going to say next. Now, I'm currently thinking.
Yeah.
I've got a bingo card. Like when you're playing bingo? With woke words and woke ideas on it, right? And I give it to people who sit in meetings and they're giggling, going, yeah, there it is. There it is. And we're just as guilty of it as they are, because you've used the word problematic about 8 times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, it's fucking horrible. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
What does it mean? It makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is it a problem or isn't it? Because it can't be problematic.
Yeah.
That's the word of the cultists.
Yeah.
On the New Discourses website, their dictionary is amazing.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's got it all in there. It's got how to deal with it. And there's a great book you should get. It's like that thick, called Counter Wokecraft.
Counter Wokecraft, yeah.
Yeah.
I think who wrote that?
James Lindsay.
Okay.
In with somebody else. I mean, it's literally an afternoon read, right? Yeah. It's got American flavor, but you'll be able to deduce what you want from it.
Yeah,
I suppose. Right.
That's the nature of my book, really to highlight the that woke exists and how to handle it.
Yeah. So I mean that, but my book, I've sold 100 copies, but it never, and it's shit, right? Because I was so high on morphine when I wrote it. But it just needs a really good editor. But that wasn't the point. I didn't write the book. I realized afterwards, for people to buy, I wrote it because it was how I think.
No, I agree. It's a very valuable exercise.
So, I've said to all my warrior teachers, one of whom is a CEO, start a blog.
Yeah.
Start writing. You need to write. And now they have. And they're sending me the stuff they write. Right. And that should be the first thing we say to every CEO we meet. Okay, you're going to start a blog tomorrow about the change process. You don't have to make it public. It's actually a learning diary. We just don't say that.
And that's very psychologically, that's very therapeutic writing as well, isn't it?
It's not only is it therapeutic, it's the only way to achieve long-term change. If you're taking a humanist approach.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Right. So you can ask whether or not it's a humanist or behaviorist approach of both the CEO and the company. Do you wish this company to take a humanist approach?
Yeah. By the way, I'll just say one observation which probably resonate with you. One thing I've noticed with narcissists is that they document absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's because they know they're full of shit. They don't want to get called out on it.
No, they're just experts at shit. Yeah.
You know, where people will pull me up on stuff I wrote 2 years ago and say, you wrote this 2 years ago and you said something different this week. I said, gosh, isn't change a funny thing?
I know. I know it's amazing. I love beating myself up quite violently. I can't believe how much things have changed in the last 6 months. It's just amazing.
I've been embroiled this week in the bloody drag queen story hour fiasco.
The what? Sorry?
Have you not heard about this?
No.
Drag queen story hour.
No.
Right, they're going into libraries and reading books to toddlers.
Oh, that's no. A friend of mine actually told me that. I was on a call with someone in Bristol, and they told me about that. I was just shocked. I was really shocked to this.
Right now, so let's give this some perspective, okay? I've got a friend. I mean, I've done drag myself in the past. I've got a friend who's a drag queen called Misty. Right now, Misty Chance has been around for 40 years nearly. Okay, and if you think it's like, do you remember Blankety Blank?
Yeah.
Do you remember who used to present it, Lily Savage?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that kind of old school, old-fashioned drag.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which Lily managed to turn into being a national treasure.
Yeah.
But did so because if you ever saw Lily live, that was a different story. Right. So there was two sides.
Yeah.
In this world where information is now so readily available, you can't do that. Right. So these people are going into it and then they're finding all sorts of stuff, these drag queens. And I've had to put out 2 videos this weekend saying, you've got to get your head round. It's not the fact that they're a drag queen that's problematic, unless they're in there waving their willy about or showing their semi, or, then it's a fucking problem, right? If they're going in there dressed as the queen or your grandmother, nobody cares, right? But in reality, they shouldn't be there at all. You want somebody to read to children, make it an engineer. Make it a scientist, make it a woman author.
Yeah.
Right. Right. But that's not the issue. That's a smokescreen.
Yeah.
The issue is not what the drag queen is. The issue is, what is the drag queen reading?
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Right. So the drag queen goes in and tells the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Right. Now, whoever reads Little Red Riding Hood to children, there's nothing partisan about Little Red Riding Hood. The message in Little Red Riding Hood is some people aren't what they say they are. That's the message, right? And it's a message we all need as children in order to be able to understand that more fully as adults. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Right. So they go in with Little Red Riding Hood. They apply queer theory and gender ideology to it, and suddenly Grandma's the bad guy and the wolf's the good guy.
Fucking hell.
Right. So that's what they're reading. Right. Everybody's going, get these paedophile. The guy who's reading it is not a paedophile. Right. Pedophiles don't show up in full and with 15 teachers and fucking 30 parents and go, right, I'm going to diddle your kids. Right. It's a smokescreen.
Yeah.
It's what they're reading.
Yeah.
And when you get into organizations, it's what HR is telling them.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So from that perspective, if you don't do the philosophical groundwork above the organization, which will be the same philosophical groundwork you could do with anybody you meet, Tom, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. So it's interesting the way you approach this on an individual level, at parental level. I think you're right, because we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with it's not even the reason why this is so pervasive is because it's the set of glasses that they wear regardless, at home, at work, whatever. In the past, when I've worked in organizations, there were sort of faddy things in engineering businesses and a lot of other businesses in terms of pretty good methodology, right? There was just-in-time manufacturing. There was
God, I remember that.
Yeah, there was OPD, there was Eli Goldratt.
Remember Time and Motion?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a whole raft of those sorts of things, and none of them were right or wrong, but they all gave rise to, broadly things becoming better, and the people weren't. There was a degree of faddishness to it because the Japanese were unbelievably focused on just-in-time manufacturing, to almost sometimes to the detriment of organizations, but it didn't have this pervasive fucked upness about it in terms of changing. So that person would go out of their workplace and they wouldn't, I don't think it changed the way I spoke to my girlfriend at the time or whatever. It wasn't so pervasive. So
Well,
I
that's
think
because it's cultural. It's not based around workplace, it's cultural.
Yeah, it's fundamentally cultural. Yeah. So
the template's over our society. It's a cultural template.
Yeah. So therefore, one of the flaws in the way I'm trying to approach it versus where you're trying to approach it is that the fact that you're actually dealing with parents as well, which is also where the money is, and also it's political as well. So
right, but I'm dealing with I'm being the parent in all cases.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah,
right, psychologically, right? Because what we've got is a situation where we have an entire country that are acting as either child or parent.
Yeah.
Right. You know about transactional analysis?
Yeah, yes, I did know a lot about these things, but I sort of internalize it myself as opposed to in the same way that you do. But
I would take another look at it, because what we've got is a situation whereby people are behaving like a parent or a child ego. Parent-child ego state. It's not about age. It's not about who you are sexually. It's not about who you are. Right. So it's just parent and child state.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And they're either one or the others, when what we need is the adult state.
Yeah.
And even CEOs are behaving like parents and children.
Yes.
So their ego state is either an ego state as a parent or an ego state as a child.
Yeah.
What we need is the adult, and that's where you and I come in. But in order to be the adult in this situation, you've got to be the one thing they've never had, which is the boundary giving, stern but kind parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, my friend Juliana, who's on my course, she's a parent in Sweden, right? Sweden have gone farther than anyone else in this nonsense.
Yeah.
And she's one of my parents is a woman who was recently diagnosed with ADHD. She's in her 60s, right? And she's a member of Mensa. She's immensely smart, but she doesn't see the world the same way we do. So we have lots of conversations around how can we understand each other. And that's a fascinating thing to do, Tom. Right. But she said to me last night that they've just issued an edict from Sweden's government, which is actually Sweden's parent, right? That you must no longer tell a child that anything is wrong.
Yeah.
No boundaries of any kind.
That's
that child must. It's cruel. It's child abuse.
It's absolutely appalling. Yeah, it really fucks people up badly. That does.
Yeah. Well, that's now the edict from the Swedish government. And Sweden is having more social problems than any other country, despite the fact that they've got the smallest gender gap in the world.
Yes.
Because to be able to achieve that gender gap, they've had to force people using a behaviorist orientation of learning to get them to do what they wanted to do, like a toxic parent.
Yeah. Wow.
Parent, child, adult. If you want it from a Christian point of view, Tom, it's Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Yeah. Are you a Christian or
no?
Okay.
Yeah. In the words of Marx, and that would be Groucho, not Carl, I'll never be a member of a club that would have me as a member.
Well, I'm very much like that, but I think Jesus would welcome you because Jesus is about freedom. A lot of the things you talk about are, I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm not trying to persuade you, but a lot of people do not realize how Jesus, or don't see the connection of the way Jesus is already working their lives, whether they like it or not.
You know, I'm not unaware of this, Tom. For goodness sake, we're trying to reassert Christian values.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Right. You know, and there's a wonderful thing that I showed my parents, and I think it's about lesson 2, which is where Ricky Gervais is sat down being interviewed by somebody, and he's on about science. Yeah. And he says, well, if you were to take all the science that we've got now and tear it all up and throw it all away as if we didn't know it, it will be back again in 2,000 years in exactly the same form it is now, right? Which is generally true.
Yeah.
Right? That's generally true. And then he says, But if you were to take a holy book and tear it up and throw it all away, it wouldn't come back. Well, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. And he's an idiot because it would come back. And the stories about human capacity, human capability, and human suffering would be exactly the bloody same.
Yeah.
Right now, what's really exciting about where we're going is that we are now in a situation where we've got accessibility to a bank of human knowledge that we've never, ever had before, which means that there's a million reasons why we shouldn't reproduce the mistakes of the past.
What was the last bit there?
There's a million reasons why we shouldn't reproduce the mistakes of the past.
Yes.
Right? So from our perspective, curiosity is power.
And I think it's a very important point. Yeah. I'm not, yeah. And I think,
Right, so-
well, I
right,
think
so
there's
for
something
example-
on that, just on that point briefly,
Well,
right?
Yeah.
What concerns, I mean, if you look at I've got 2 kids. So do you have children or not?
I'm a gay man, no.
Okay, that's fine. One thing I've noticed with my kids is they are so fucked up with technology. They have no idea about the past whatsoever, Barry.
That's right.
Nothing
Nothing happened before 1990.
Well, not even that. I mean, they're just, it's all, this addiction to the, and so they have no context to that. So you talk about, but I think what you're right is not repeating mistakes of the past, but there's so little knowledge, or reference. And without that, that's very, I think, very important to our identity, the past, very reassuring meeting your grandparents or whatever, and that sort of social structure side of things.
Well, that's when I talk about the intergenerational and cultural divide, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think here's an interesting one for you. You'll find this interesting. I had a few of the younglings around the other night, right? So, well, actually, we were having dinner. There was people there that I've known for many years. I've been around here for about 23 years, and there was a young guy who's only 20, and then there was another one who's 25, one who's 34, one who's 43, and I suddenly realised they're all my fucking children.
Yeah, wow.
They're because we have vertical families, not horizontal ones.
Yeah, well, that's also biblical, by the way.
Very biblical, very biblical. Yeah, you can't get away from the biblical resonation with that. So I think it's a really important point that when I had them round, so Josh came round and Regan and one of the others. Now they're all under 23, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I stuck a film on, an old film from years ago.
Yeah.
And whatever the film was, I think it was Rebecca, but it might have been something else. The use of language in old black and white movies is extraordinary, right? Because they all talk fast like this, and everybody's go, "Oh yes, do you think so? Really? Are we? Shall we?" It's all that very clipped English thing, right? Yeah. And they had to have the fucking subtitles on.
Really?
Because they couldn't keep up with the language.
Wow, yeah, amazing.
That's terrifying, right? Now over the weeks, they don't have to do it now. They've stopped because they've learned to listen quicker.
Yeah.
Right. So that their ability to listen is stunted, but it gets scarier than that. Right, because if what I think is right, this dislike, which they do all the time, and that freezes them. That freezes them into a position of high altitude, low resolution thinking.
Yeah, and blind spots as well. Though.
Well, the worst thing about that is it means they can't love.
Wow, bloody hell! Yeah,
it means they can't love because love requires extremely low altitude, very high resolution thinking.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really insightful.
They can't love.
That's really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tragic.
I think that's bang on the money as well. It really resonates. I think that's because that's really, I mean, that's the essence of Logos. I think that I'm talking about. They have is that not? And I think that this is the problem. We talked a little bit about addiction. There's addiction to social media, addiction to woke. I think it's an addiction to woke as well. A friend of mine calls it the mind virus, which I think is quite helpful.
That's what Gab Sad calls it.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not big on labels, but I think it's a useful reference to talk from sometimes. But I think, it is. It's the antithesis of Logos, and I think what's exciting. I mean, the other challenge with all of this stuff. Yeah, you talked about the journey, but actually, where they are and where they're going to be, you have to have that parent-child relationship to lead them, hold them by the hand and walk them through the garden, because tragically, I think they have no appreciation of what good looks like. Apart from, it's funny, I remember one of the formative things in my youth was Debbie Harry. You know, for a lot of young men of my age, you know, but it wasn't so much Debbie Harry. It was just her bloody humanity. Just, I mean, she wasn't even massively. She was a sexually attractive woman, but you know, it was her genuine humanity. And I think that, you know, when you watch Top of the Pops in those days, you know, there was, you know, it wasn't just obviously nice looking women. There was, you know, homosexual things, but and as you say, it didn't matter that it was bloody homosexual, whatever.
You've gone. Have I lost
Type
you?
of way. And,
Oh, you're back. Yeah.
In that sort of natural way. And you were talking to the person, not to the. You were talking to the person. You weren't talking to the. You know, the dogma.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Yep, absolutely. But we're again. I think it's an interesting one because I would challenge you again. It's not an addiction to social media.
No, is that me or you? I don't know.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not an addiction to social media. Right. It's an addiction to dopamine.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that's why they constantly want you to affirm them.
Okay.
That's why they expect people to be nice. I mean, when we were sat around the table, one of the interesting thing about young Nathan was we've known each other for years, these people, and we are fucking brutal, right? Because the British are. If you sit around, I mean, I've had American friends come over and stay, and they're like, "Why I thought you were friends." We are. Yeah. You know, it's just like he said. I've never seen conversations like that in my life. I'm naked, you know, and so I'm watching this young guy, and he's going, "Whoa, God, that!" And he said to me, "You're so fucking brutal." And I said, "Well, you know, I'm 57. I haven't got time not to be, but I've always been like that." Yeah. You know, he said, "Well, can't you just be nice?" I said, "Nice? The fuck does that mean? Right? Yeah. It's got nothing to do with nice." Yeah. Right. So it's an addiction to dopamine.
Yeah.
Right. So when they get something that makes them feel bad, right, which is equally an addiction to dopamine.
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing. Right. That's what really upsets them because the dopamine affects them in terms of how they think.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of going, "Oh, that feels nice," they go, "Oh, that feels bad." Well, they want to get rid of the bit that feels bad and just have the nice. Yeah, that's neuroequity. Yeah, that's the flattening of human experience to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very. I mean, I think I used to say I led a very, very successful business, and we took it within 6 months. We won awards and national awards, proper bloody awards. And I used to say to them, I said, politeness is a form of dishonesty. And that really used to wind them up, but it was true. And the only way that they could break through, and they were a successful business, the only way they could break through this ceiling, and I used to encourage them, not in the way I do now, but I've got oddly enough a lot better since then, was to frankly get to the truth. And when you in not being nice, you obviously, Barry, in doing what you're doing, you value the truth. You value, if you don't value the truth, and there's interesting bit of, I don't know, it's interesting. It's taken us a long time as a civilized society to get to value truth, because, you know, Nigeria, for example, doesn't value the truth. They actually value lying as being a useful trait, which is not very well known. And in fact, if you look back, I don't know, I'm not a great historian, but several hundred years ago, you know, there was no valuing of the truth.
No, none at all. You know, you can see this happening in real time, right? Yeah. If you look at what's going on in Namibia and Rwanda, right? They're beginning to value the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And they're doing it at a very, very fast speed, which means that they are achieving things like gender equality, better standard of living. They're doing the stuff that we're wanting to abandon.
Yeah.
They're just getting on that back because Namibia, Rwanda in particular, has had the most awful history in the past 30 or 40 years with the genocide of the Tutsis. But we're now seeing them embrace truth, which is in effect science, you know, which is in effect understanding the world and then examining yourself. So it's about getting the comfort to examine yourself.
Well, absolutely, but that's all more biblical than scientific, I think. I mean, it's no.
Well, I think it's both.
It is, yeah. I think
you got to remember that religion was proto-science.
I think a useful reference Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's true. And yeah, you're right. Christianity drove a lot of science. I think there are three tenets of Christianity which are helpful references as well. One is goodness, one is truth, the other one's beauty.
Yeah. Goodness,
All of
truth, and
which
beauty.
fucking woke
Yeah. Can't stand.
can't stand any of those things.
No, they can't. Well, you can't have it, see, because it's not inclusive.
Well, that's right. Yeah,
Right.
I go out my way to point out beautiful women. Not that I want to get my leg over them per se, or I might do actually, but yeah, but just to acknowledge, and but it really calls them out because it's true. You try going against the truth. It's a bloody dodgy place. And
When you
particularly
look
if
at,
they
but if you look at what's happening in Sweden, right? Women marry across and up.
yeah,
Men will shag anything, but women will marry across and up, right?
yeah,
So when you attack the family, which is essentially what Sweden have done,
yeah,
right? By saying, we need gender parity and people should be at work, and they've been forcing that to happen.
yeah,
What's happened is that actually the biological difference is maximized.
yeah. I know.
So yeah, there are less women in STEM in Sweden than there are in Ghana.
I know. It makes things worse. Yeah, yeah,
It makes
absolutely.
things, so this leads us to attempt to put together a narrative, which you've been doing with your program, with what
Yeah.
you're designing, and I'm doing with what I'm designing, except I think we're doing it in two different areas.
Yeah.
I think mine is I'm not interested in engaging. I mean, if I went to an organization and I managed to convince the MD, then I would engage to put through whatever change they want. But I'm also equally happy to do it with 6 mums on Teams on a Sunday night.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Is
Yeah.
that I think there's if the narrative you're beginning with cannot be used with anyone, it isn't a narrative, it's a strategy.
Okay, it's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're talking about working in a cultural sphere, which we are now, in a world where everything in terms of language is up for grabs, and where the stories that we relied on are being destroyed, the beginning point has to be the narrative, which will be parallel to that which is going on.
Yes.
Because we're losing.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it is about it is about understanding what's coming out of each other's mouths and then holding each other to account. I think one of the things I've noticed, particularly in a business situation, is you can't really address this on a singular level because all you do, you basically create people like you and I, Barry, right, with an awareness which just sticks a target on your back, and without the rest of the team understanding what the hell you're talking about, you're putting them in a situation where, frankly, they're going to get fired very quickly.
right. Okay, great. Now, right. So that's interesting you should say that. And I'll break you on that one, Tom, because something happened last night with my parents, right?
Okay.
One of my parents, who has got a son who's mutilating himself rapidly, right?
Okay.
16 years old,
Mm.
Has no support from her family at all.
Yeah.
And she messaged in one of the family groups saying, I'm sorry, it's his daughter. So I'm very worried about the upcoming mastectomy. Right? This nonsense is going to kill my daughter. And they fucking went for her. Big time. Her entire family. Right? She's absolutely isolated.
Yeah.
And then her mother-in-law put, I'm worried about it too. And I said to her, that's your in. That's it. That's your in. So she's got to separate the mother out from the herd and talk to the mother as an adult, talking about where she is right now and is in pain, to encourage the mother to listen empathetically and therefore want to engage with what's going on. That's how you do it. And that's no different from approaching a CEO in a company.
Yeah.
It's no different. What you are trying to do is deprogram people who are caught in a cult. And to do that, you have to start with whoever's got the reins of power in the organization. But it won't be the CEO that's necessarily causing the problem. It'll be the fat spider sat in HR.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So
the interesting thing about the fat spider in HR, there's something because basically, if I put my engineering hat back on, right?
Yeah.
Look at this from an engineering perspective. You basically woke is a process that doesn't bloody work, right? And what happens with a process that doesn't work is it creates lots of rework, right? In other words, and actually it really didn't work in the first place. So that rework, right, gets out of control and becomes overwhelming. And I just dropped a post out on LinkedIn today, basically using that as a trigger. It was interesting because the very advocates of woke are failing which of course they will, Barry. They will, because what we're saying is pretty true. We have our own versions of reality which are pretty dodgy, but by and large, 80% of what we're talking about is true. So if you have people who are doing 80% the opposite of what we're talking about, that will screw them up, and it'll backfire.
Well, you have to remember it's not meant to work.
Yeah, no, that's right. It isn't meant to work, but what I'm talking about at a human level, it doesn't work. So,
No.
so if you are an HR director, right, and you've got a schedule of you two years ago before the woke stuff, whatever, you had an in tray that deep. It's now that deep because the things you're doing is actually fucking up the wrong people, and the more you do of it, the more unconscious bias training you do, the more you're going to make it worse.
Which of course is their aim.
Yes, but there's a real cost to that.
A huge cost, and the people that are often doing it don't know that the cost is there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's back. That's the point I'm making. It's a sort of
right, but they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Right. So here we go. Right. Let me give you an example of what I mean by making yourself the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Read this in the chat.
So,
can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can't scroll through that, but hold on a minute. Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. You got it?
Yeah.
And here's what happens next.
Oh, where's that?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's a distraction tactic. You've got to make them feel that they don't know something, that they're uncomfortable, or you have to appeal to their novelty instinct, because we all have a novelty instinct. When I went into Egypt and I was walking through Karnak, and all of a sudden I was the only white guy for like 4 miles, and all the Egyptian people were going, "There's a white man," because it was unusual to see me, to see somebody like me in that particular part of where they were.
Yeah.
But there's also an interesting quote that gives us another illustration, I think, of what you and I are attempting to grasp. Is this one, right? Which is about the multiverse. So let me just give you this one a minute, right?
Multiverse, fucking hell. That's the thing, isn't it?
Read it.
Wait, hold on, where's that? Oh yeah. Any true voice should describe that. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
Right, that's the multiverse, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a multiverse that we live in. It's the multiverse of each of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. And that was said by Marcel Proust in 1923.
Wow.
There's nothing fucking new under the sun, Tom.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Right. So what we're talking about there is recognizing that the complexity of our lives is nothing in comparison to the complexity of 2 lives exploring what it means to be living, exploring what it means to be successful. Add your adverb. It doesn't matter, whatever it may be. What we need to do is to sow doubt.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Right. Because if somebody is ideologically entrenched, they have an anchor.
Yeah. So what would you today, Barry, specifically, right? I'm going to send out an email to my network. I've got 8,000 people in my network who are chief execs, and they actually know and trust me, and they've bloody put up with me as well, weirdly enough. And I've got good relationships with these guys, a lot of whom probably haven't got the confidence to say Tom's right, but they're looking for a reason to engage with me, if you know what I mean. And I'm a bit like you, Marmite, probably. You know, some people love you, some people hate you. And one thing I've noticed, interesting enough, we talk about Christian faith. The more I've spoken about my Christian faith, the more it's actually enhanced my relationships, and it creates a level playing field, because you stop talking crap, and it gives you a reference which is helpful. And I think, interesting enough,
The timing has to be right.
well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't try and do things too perfectly very often. But then I think it's interesting, actually, there's that common link between you and I, actually, as well, because you rationalize. I'm a bit round the other way. Although anyway, we don't have to necessarily cover that. But what would you say is the hook to engage these people? If I was going to send something out to my network in relation to a one-liner, what should I say to them to get them curious, or bloody pick up the phone type scenario? What would you suggest?
Well, that's a difficult one. What do you want to achieve?
I want to achieve transformation of companies. Like, I've got relationships with companies like Rolls-Royce. I've got company like British Aerospace. I'm passionate about UK manufacturing, so I want to engage with the bosses of that lot to do what we've just been talking about, and to sort this stuff out.
Well, I mean, I think that if I was you, I'd run a webinar.
Okay.
Right. And it's up to you how you want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult because obviously this has opened up quite a lot of vistas, doesn't it, in terms of thinking?
Yeah,
right.
Indeed.
Okay, in terms of how you're viewing what you're viewing now, because you've got some of my lens and I've got some of yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So we're now, it's how does that alter how we think?
Yeah.
And you've got to be careful you don't come across as a bumbling oaf.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'd be careful how you do it. I'm belie to suggest the obvious, which is I think that we should run a webinar and you should interview me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm belie to suggest that for numerous reasons, not least of which, one, Google, and they'll find me. Right. And there is.
What you mean, as in you, Barry? As in you and I do a webinar?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, welcome that. Yeah.
Right, now, hang on, because that comes with risks.
Right. Well, I don't mind risk. What?
Oh no, I mean, it comes with risks.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So we'd have to manage that carefully, because my character, the EDI Jester on YouTube, doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
And my blog doesn't pull any punches. Right. So it would have to be. Okay, right, here's how I think we should approach it. I think that you should say that you've met someone who is working within engineering in equality, diversity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
And that individual is examining and researching how EDI statements and prevent statements in bids can be carried out.
Yeah.
And he does so from a particular narrative.
Yeah.
And he has concerns about not just the university sector, but also the manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
And you happen to come across me at a, make it up,
Yeah.
And then you'd say that you've managed to convince me to give you an hour of my time.
Yeah.
And that you're going to interview me for that hour, and you've got 8 places.
Yeah. Great. Excellent. That's really good. Love it.
What do you think?
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
Right. Now, if that works,
yeah.
And I think, if that works, the next time we do it, we charge for it.
Yeah. Well, I think we should get enough. Well, I'm just thinking we could probably do that on a. Some of the people I've got better relationships with. So obviously, of the 3,000, there's a short list. So I've got relationships with probably 5 or 6, Barry, where I could actually suggest them to get their top 5 people together, and we'll do that as a webinar for Rolls-Royce, let's say.
Yeah.
British Aerospace. So
yeah. I mean, listen, let's put it this way: it doesn't matter who you put in front of me, because I'm going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
that's the point of the narrative, isn't it?
I'll tell you one thing. which I'm raising, not to, but I think that in this time, right, the peculiar thing is, well, I'll give you an example. Put it another way, in a company turnaround, okay, because everybody's psychology is pretty fucked up, and I think that's pretty safe. Horrible generalization in terms of what's going on. The one thing that people look for is clarity. Okay.
Yes.
So there's a very strong case, and I think the tide is turning very much in our favor for boldness, right?
Yep.
Boldness and clarity. And so you're actually beating yourself up. I'd be careful about self-deprecating yourself, okay, because it's you're sort of speaking in a third party about yourself when in fact it's not true. But that's a bit of an aside, but that's my personal view. But I do think, cutting to the chase, there's a very strong case for boldness in this environment.
I agree with you. I've done this for others. I've done this for somebody else,
Okay.
right, who was in the NHS, and they got 6 people together to see me. And when they pitched it, they said, "Be warned, he's a whirlwind."
Yeah,
that's how they did it, right? That's how they did it.
Brilliant. That's
okay.
Really good.
And then I can tell my story, what I'm concerned about in STEM.
Yeah.
What I saw, we talk about shut down STEM, and I can take them through what I've done since with the students, and then I can talk about the risk to universities from UKRI. That would be vital.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do it, let's pitch it around what they're doing and what I think of the direct threats to STEM, and therefore by default engineering.
Yeah, no, great.
Now you can do this on the back of I met this guy in a pub.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, does it? But you need to have you've got to have a narrative behind it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do I need to mention your name? Does it matter?
No, it doesn't.
I think again, serotonin, dopamine trigger, there's something about, in many ways, intrigue is a great selling point as well.
Yeah. Scarcity is another one.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've only got 6 places.
Yeah, no, totally. I totally get that. No, totally get that. Yeah, that's brilliant. The other thing, no, that's really good. So that's fantastic. So I'll do that. The other thing I think is worth talking about is there's quite a lot of people who are concerned about this stuff. So you talked about various groups, the free thinking people or whatever they're called.
Free Speech Union,
and others.
Don't divide us now.
What was that? Sorry?
Don't divide us now. The academics working on getting critical race theory out of universities.
Yeah. And I think there's a very strong case, right, for broadening the creative quorum of people from a broad cross section with credibility from different places. So you've got credibility from universities, right? I've got credibility in a very zero bullshit place, which is called company turnaround, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why it's a no bullshit place, do you know why it's a no bullshit place more than anything?
Why?
Because the amount of money, Barry, that you have in your bank account now is absolute, right? And the ability to create cash is a no bullshit place, right? It's quite unique. So that's my world, okay? And that's what gives me credibility. Because the only way to turn a business around is to create cash, okay? And that's
or lose it if you want to turn it the other way.
Yeah, well, absolutely, yeah.
That's it, yeah. I mean, we've lost sight. Anyway, I mean, there's so much I could tell them, but I think it would be better if it's organic.
Organic? What do you mean?
Let the conversation flow.
Yes.
I don't want to be a talking head.
No, I agree.
I want to be, hi Barry, I'm Tom. Can you say hello to everybody else, and everybody can give a brief introduction, and then you can say, right, Barry, tell us what happened with you within the engineering PhDs you're working with.
Yeah,
that's right, because the PhDs are really important to these people.
Yeah.
Right, because they'll back these PhD students. They'll be using PhDs, centers for doctoral training to provide good engineers, right? Yeah. And I will show them in the space of that hour that that's about to disappear if they don't do what we tell them to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing as well is actually about the other thing which I'm involved with is investing in UK SMEs, right, which are highly reliant upon universities and others to make things happen.
Yeah, Lindsay does that. Lindsay does it, doesn't he? Do you know Lindsay?
Okay, I don't know who's Lindsay.
He's a member of the Free Speech Union.
Okay, right. Yeah, so that's another thing, because what we're actually creating as well in reality, which is a frigging tragedy, is people investing in the wrong things, which is just disastrous. Because the other important common denominator here, Barry, is that we need to also make sure we make money as well. Because my 1 day program costs 12 grand, right?
Yeah.
And plus, and so I'm quite generous if people can develop business to, you know, if you, and I'll give you 30% of that if you, and we do need to, and Nick Buckley's another great man, and so I think there's some sort of quorum of people, completely different bloody cross section, because I don't, he's more of a sort of Tommy Robinson type character, isn't he?
Who?
Nick Buckley.
Good
So,
God, no.
No. I mean, it's
But
interesting.
he's got that reputation.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
it's not
well,
true.
it's interesting you say. No, I meant that in a positive sense of the word. There is a positive side of what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think, but he's got all I'm saying is a different perspective, but equally valued in the charity sector.
No, I've already talked to other people that are involved in this potential project about you.
Oh, right, great.
So I started that. Right.
Yeah.
So we are just at the point really where we have to do some toe dipping, which is what I think this webinar will be. Yeah. When we've done the toe dipping, let's see what response we get from the people. Yeah. And if it's a good response, the next thing is to get the engineers and me around the table.
Fantastic. Yeah, good. Yeah. Nice.
Okay. So that's why, baby steps, Tom. Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Because nothing's certain. Everything could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
Look where we are.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. All right. Well, let's touch base and see how we get on, Barry. That's great.
Yeah. Let me know how you get on with give it some thought on this thing and just message me and let me know where your thinking is.
I'll send you a note a bit later on today with the text of my introduction.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then see whether you get any pull from it. Okay?
My initial thought is I'm going to big you up, but in a mysterious way.
Yeah, and warn them that I'm not conventional.
Well, that's right, but that's also intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is intriguing.
Yeah, curiosity kills the cat.
It kills the fucking cat. Okay, that's great. Tom will find a way through this, and I think we've now got. There's now 5 or 6 people, all of who come from different walks, that are interested in doing the same thing.
Fantastic. Well, I'd like to set up a forum. The other thing, I'm massive on teamwork, right? I'm massive on collaboration. So I've run some big, bloody, ugly organisations, and so
yeah.
I'm really keen to create that forum once we've got the feedback from this.
Yeah, I agree. I was having this conversation with Carl Benjamin on Saturday. To me, this is a war, right?
It is.
Carl would be intelligence, and I think you and I are the shock troops.
Yeah, no, I agree totally.
Right, I'm going.
Yeah, and we do need to support each other because there's a few reasons why we need to support each other. One is to check our own thinking, so we're not believing our own shit.
Yeah.
So. And actually, I think I've learned. I'm encouraged, Barry, from this conversation because I've learned things today from what you've said. You've shifted my mindset, and we need to challenge each other on that because it's a test of our own bullshit, frankly.
Yeah. But also, this is about toxic parenting.
Yeah.
The whole damn thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the adult ego state is the antidote to the toxic mother and father.
Yeah.
And the toxic child. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, we've got to find a middle ground because this has got to have appeal to the largest group of people.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that's why we've got to be careful about, I'll collaborate with anybody, but that doesn't mean to say I agree with them. And that should be at the foundation of what we're doing, is that we collaborate to the common aim. And the common aim is to reassert that the enlightenment, that, an educated individual and a humanist approach to orientation to teaching is absolutely fundamental to our principles.
Yeah, it's such an obvious statement, isn't it? Humanist approach to.
Yeah, but I'm talking about humanist in the teaching argot, not in the philosophical argot.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah. So which is that's the trip to the zoo rather than Pavlov's dogs.
Yeah, no. Again, you have to be careful with language there because the association and
that's right. Well, that's why you've got to get people to understand it's confusing. I think your CEOs will lap this up.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant, Barry. It's been a pleasure to speak to you again, my friend.
And you, Tom. Look, let's stay in touch. Let's see where the bloody hell is going to take us because I've got no idea.
Bring it on.
Well, it's the roller coaster. It's got to be better than the fucking merry-go-round.
Excellent. Good to see you.
I'll see you later.
Take care.